The moment the lawyer slid the envelope across the table toward my brother instead of me, my stomach dropped so hard I thought I might throw up right there on the polished oak floor. He didn't look surprised. That was the part that still burns. "Excuse me," I said, leaning forward. "I think there's been a mistake." The lawyer glanced at his notes, calm as ever. "No mistake, Ms. Harris. According to your father's final will, the estate passes in full to your brother, Daniel." Daniel finally looked at me then. Not with shock. Not with guilt. Just that tight little smile he uses when he knows he's already won. I laughed once, sharp and ugly. That's not possible. My dad had promised. Not in some vague, emotional way. He'd said it clearly, over coffee at my kitchen table 6 months before he died. "Everything will be split evenly," he'd told me. "You and Daniel." That's only fair. Daniel had been sitting right there. So I turned to him. Tell him Dad said that." Daniel folded his hands like he was praying. He changed his mind. The room went quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear your own pulse in your ears. The lawyer cleared his throat. "If there are no further questions." "There are questions," I snapped. My voice didn't even sound like mine. "Plenty of them." But the meeting was already over. Papers gathered. Chairs scraping. Daniel stood and buttoned his coat. "I'm sorry," he said, softly enough that only I could hear. "I know this is hard." Hard. Like I'd misplaced my keys. Like I'd had a bad day at work. I watched him walk out with everything our father had built, everything that was supposed to be mine too, and I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't an accident. 3 weeks earlier, we'd buried our father under a gray sky that couldn't decide if it wanted to rain. Daniel had stood next to me at the graveside, stiff and silent. He hadn't cried. I had. I cried so hard my knees buckled, and he caught my arm to keep me standing. "You okay?" he'd whispered. I nodded because that's what you do when people ask stupid questions at funerals. Afterward, we went back to Dad's house. The same house we grew up in. The one with the chipped front step and the crooked mailbox Dad refused to replace. Daniel poured himself a whiskey from Dad's cabinet without asking. That should have annoyed me, but I was too tired to care. "We'll sort everything out later," he said. "No rush." "Yeah," I said. "We'll do it together." He looked at me for a long second. "Of course." That was the last honest thing he said to me for a long time. Growing up, Daniel was the golden child. Older by 3 years. Smarter, according to Dad. Better with numbers. Better with people. I was the dependable one. The one who showed up. The one who moved back home after Mom died to help Dad with the business. Dad owned a small construction company. Nothing fancy. Just residential jobs. Decks, remodels, roofing. It paid the bills. Daniel left town at 18. College. City job. Big life. I stayed. When Dad's knees went bad, I handled the books. When he couldn't climb ladders anymore, I dealt with clients. I knew every supplier by name. Every employee's kid's birthday. Daniel visited on holidays. He'd clap Dad on the back, ask about profits, make jokes about how I was basically running the place. Dad would laugh. "She's keeping it afloat." That meant something to me. So when Dad got sick last year, I assumed, stupidly, that all of that mattered. Daniel came back more often then. Always asking questions. Always offering to help. I remember one night in particular. Dad was asleep upstairs. Daniel and I were in the kitchen, the light over the stove buzzing softly. "Have you talked to him about the will?" Daniel asked. I shrugged. "Not really. Doesn't feel right." Daniel nodded like he agreed. "Still, it's important." I turned to him. "It's split. You know that." He hesitated. Just a second too long. "Yeah, sure." I should have pressed him then. I didn't. After the lawyer's office, I drove to Dad's house without thinking. I still had a key. Daniel hadn't changed the locks yet. I sat in my car for a minute, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the front door like it might bite me. Inside, everything smelled the same. Dust and coffee and the lemon cleaner Dad loved. I walked into his office. The desk was cleared out. Too clean. The filing cabinets were empty. Daniel had already been here. I opened drawers, cabinets. Nothing. No paperwork. No old folders. Except one thing. In the trash can, tucked under a layer of crumpled receipts, was a manila envelope. Empty. But the corner had a name written in Dad's handwriting. My name. I sank into Dad's chair and stared at it until my eyes burned. Daniel hadn't just taken the inheritance. He'd erased me. That night, I called him. He didn't answer. I texted, "We need to talk." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Finally, there's nothing to talk about. I threw my phone onto the couch. The next morning, I went to the construction office. Or what used to be the office. A new sign hung out front. Same company name. Different logo. Inside, the receptionist looked at me like I was a stranger. "Can I help you?" "I work here," I said. She frowned and checked her computer. "I don't see you on the schedule." I walked past her and straight into Dad's old office. Daniel was sitting at the desk. He didn't look up right away. He was on the phone laughing. "Yeah, we'll restructure," he said. "Cut costs. Streamline." I stood there until he noticed me. He covered the phone. "You can't be here." I laughed again. That same ugly sound. That was fast. He hung up. "This is my company now. You don't know how to run it." He leaned back in Dad's chair. "I hired people who do." That's not what Dad wanted. His jaw tightened. Dad wanted what was best. For who? I asked. For the business. I stared at him. "You lied. To him. Or to the lawyer. Or to me. Pick one." He stood. "You should go." "Daniel." I said go. The receptionist hovered in the doorway, eyes wide. I walked out before I did something I couldn't take back. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and shook until my hands went numb. That afternoon, I called the lawyer again. Asked for a copy of the will. He emailed it over. I read it 3 times. It was dated 3 months before Dad died. Signed. Witnessed. Legal. But something felt off. The wording wasn't like Dad. Too formal. Too clean. Dad wrote like he talked. Blunt. Messy. This was polished. I noticed something else too. A handwritten amendment attached to the back. Initialed by Dad. At least it was supposed to be. I stared at those initials until my eyes hurt. They didn't look right. I'd seen Dad sign his name 1,000 times. Those initials were wrong. And suddenly, the pit in my stomach turned into something else. Not grief. Not shock. Certainty. Daniel hadn't just stolen my inheritance. He'd done something much worse. And I was about to find out exactly how. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on my couch staring at the ceiling, replaying my dad's handwriting in my head like it was a crime scene. The way he looped his D. The way his pen always pressed too hard at the start, then faded out at the end. Those initials on the will were stiff. Careful. Like someone copying instead of writing. At 3 in the morning, I gave up and opened my laptop. I still had access to Dad's old email. He'd never changed the password. I told myself it was okay because I'd helped him with bills and invoices for years. This wasn't snooping. This was survival. Most of it was junk. Supplier confirmations. Old forwarded jokes. Doctor appointment reminders. Then I searched Daniel's name. Dozens of emails popped up. Recent ones. I opened the first. "Dad, just sign the attached when you get a chance. Lawyer says it's better to handle this now while things are clear." The date made my chest tighten. 2 weeks before Dad was hospitalized. There was an attachment. My hands shook as I clicked it. A draft of the will. I scrolled. Split evenly. 50-50. Just like Dad had promised. I opened the next email. "Hey Dad, lawyer made a few changes for tax reasons. Nothing big. I'll bring it by tomorrow." Next email. "Sorry, I know this is a pain. Just initial the last page so we can move forward." I scrolled faster now, heart racing. The final email was the shortest. "Thanks, Dad. I'll take care of the rest." No reply from Dad. I leaned back in my chair, breathing hard. Daniel hadn't sent the lawyer the original will. He'd sent a revised one. And Dad might not have known the difference. The next morning, I went to see Mrs. Klein. She lived 2 houses down from Dad. Retired schoolteacher. Nosy in the way that only people with nothing to lose can be. She opened the door and smiled when she saw me. Then her smile faded. "Oh, honey." I stepped inside before I changed my mind. We sat at her kitchen table, the same one she'd used for 30 years. She poured coffee and slid a mug toward me. "I need to ask you something," I said. She nodded. "About your brother." I looked up. "You've noticed things." She sighed. "I noticed him coming by when you weren't around." My stomach tightened. "How often?" "Enough," she said. He'd park out front, go in for an hour or so. Sometimes longer. "Was Dad okay then?" She hesitated. "He was tired. Confused some days. He asked me once what day it was. That wasn't like him." My fingers dug into the mug. "Did you ever see Daniel bring paperwork?" She nodded slowly. "Folders. Envelopes." I thought it was insurance. I swallowed. "Did you ever see Dad sign anything?" "No," she said. "But I heard them arguing once." That made me look up. "About what?" "I couldn't hear everything," she said. "But your dad sounded upset. He said something like, 'That's not what we agreed.'" My pulse hammered. "And Daniel?" "He told him to calm down." I sat back, dizzy. Mrs. Klein reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "If you're thinking of fighting this, you should." I nodded. "I am." But even as I said it, fear crept in. Daniel had money. Lawyers. Control of the business. I had suspicions and a neighbor's memory. I called a different lawyer that afternoon. Her name was Renee Walker. Small office. No fancy lobby. She listened without interrupting, flipping through the documents I'd printed. "This isn't impossible," she said finally. "But it won't be easy." "I don't care," I said. "I just want the truth." She tapped the amendment page. "These initials can be challenged, especially if we can show your father was vulnerable." "Daniel was handling his appointments," I said. "His meds. His transportation." Renee nodded. "That helps." "Helps me?" "It raises questions." She leaned back. "But we'll need more." "Like what?" "Proof of intent. Proof your brother benefited from changes your father didn't fully understand." I thought of emails. "I have something." Her eyebrows lifted as I slid my laptop across the desk. She read silently, then looked up at me. "This is good," she said. "Very good." Relief washed over me so fast I almost cried. Then she added, "But if he altered documents without proper consent, this goes beyond probate." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "This could be fraud." The word hung between us. Fraud meant police. Courtrooms. Public records. Daniel hadn't just screwed me over. He'd crossed a line. 2 days later, Daniel called me. I stared at my phone as it buzzed, half expecting it to explode. I answered. "What?" "I hear you hired a lawyer," he said. I didn't bother denying it. "You hear right?" He sighed like I was the unreasonable one. "This doesn't have to get ugly." "It already is. You're going to waste money chasing something you can't change." "I'm not chasing," I said. "I'm uncovering." Silence. Then his voice sharpened. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Funny," I said. "That's exactly what Dad said the last time you were here." Another pause. Longer this time. "You should let this go," he said quietly. "Why?" I asked. "Because you're scared?" He laughed. Too quickly. "I'm trying to help you." "No," I said. "You're trying to protect yourself." He hung up. That night, my phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "Stop digging." No name. No explanation. Just that. I sat on my couch, staring at the screen. Daniel had never threatened me outright before, which meant I was getting close. The next week, Renee filed paperwork to contest the will. Daniel responded immediately. His lawyer sent a letter calling my claims baseless and emotionally driven. That phrase made me laugh out loud. Emotionally driven. Like grief invalidated facts. Then something else happened. Dad's old foreman, Mike, called me. "I didn't know if I should," he said. "But things feel wrong." We met at a diner off the highway. The kind with cracked vinyl booths and burnt coffee. "I got fired," he said. My head snapped up. "What?" Daniel said he was restructuring. My jaw tightened. When? Last week. And? And he asked me something first. I leaned forward. What did he ask? If your dad had ever talked to me about you taking over the business. My chest went cold. What did you say? The truth, Mike said. That your dad wanted you in charge. That he trusted you. And Daniel. He smiled, Mike said. Then he fired me. I clenched my fists under the table. He didn't want witnesses, I said. Mike nodded. That's what I figured. He slid something across the table. A folded piece of paper. What's this? I asked. Your dad gave it to me, he said. A few days before he went into the hospital. I unfolded it. It was a handwritten note. If anything happens, make sure she's protected. This business is hers as much as his. My vision blurred. That's his handwriting, I whispered. Mike nodded. I thought you should have it. I held that paper like it might disappear. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about clearing my father's name. That evening, I drove past the construction office. Lights were on late. Through the window, I saw Daniel pacing, phone pressed to his ear, face tight. For the first time since the lawyer's office, I smiled. He knew. He knew I had something. As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time, it was a photo. A picture of Dad's old safe. Open. Empty. Below it, one line of text. You won't find what you're looking for. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Because now I knew exactly what he'd taken. And if I was right about what used to be inside that safe, Daniel's lie was about to collapse in a way he never saw coming. But first, I had to prove what my father had hidden there. And that meant confronting the one person Daniel never thought I'd talk to. The person Daniel never thought I'd talk to as his ex-wife. Her name was Lauren. They'd been married 6 years. No kids. Messy divorce. The kind nobody likes to talk about at family dinners, which is exactly why Daniel assumed I wouldn't touch it. I hadn't spoken to Lauren in over 3 years. Not since the divorce finalized and she disappeared from our lives like she'd never existed. I found her number in my contacts, still saved under Lauren D. I stared at it for a long time before pressing call. She answered on the 3rd ring. Hello. It's me, I said. Silence. Then, wow. I didn't expect to ever hear from you again. Yeah, I said. Same. Another pause. Is this about your dad? I closed my eyes. Partly. She sighed. I'm sorry about him. He was good to me. Better than Daniel ever was. That didn't surprise me. I need to ask you something, I said. And you don't owe me anything. I know that. I know, she said. But go ahead. Did Daniel ever talk to you about Dad's will? Or the business? She laughed, short and bitter. All the time. My grip tightened on the phone. What did he say? That it should be his, she said. That your dad was too sentimental about you. I swallowed. Did he ever mention changing anything? Yes, she said immediately. He said if he didn't step in, you'd run it into the ground. I clenched my jaw. Did he ever say how he'd step in? She hesitated. Not at first. And later? He told me he had ways of convincing your dad, she said. I thought he meant talking. I didn't realize. Her voice cracked. I didn't realize until after. After what? I asked. After I found a draft of the will in his laptop, she said. My heart slammed. You saw it. Yes. 2 versions. One split evenly. One leaving everything to him. My chest tightened. What did you do? I confronted him, she said. He told me to mind my own business. And then I found the safe. My breath caught. You knew about the safe? Yes, she said. He showed it to me once. Said your dad kept important leverage in there. Did you see what was inside? I asked. No, she said. But I saw him take things out. Papers. A USB drive. My hands went cold. I need to meet you, I said. She didn't answer right away. Daniel doesn't scare me anymore, she said finally. But I don't want trouble. I'm already in trouble, I said. I just don't want to be alone in it. Another pause. Okay, she said. One meeting. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our towns. Lauren looked different. Stronger. Shorter hair. Sharper eyes. She studied me as I sat down. You look tired. I smiled weakly. I feel worse. She nodded. He's good at that. We talked for over an hour. She told me about Daniel's obsession with control. How he hated not being the favorite anymore. How he resented me for staying behind, for becoming indispensable to Dad. He thought you manipulated him, she said. I laughed. I barely convinced Dad to eat vegetables. Lauren smiled sadly. Daniel needs someone to blame. I slid Mike's note across the table. Her eyes widened. That's his handwriting. I know. She leaned back. You should know something else. What? Daniel didn't just want the inheritance, she said. He needed it. Needed it how? He was in debt, she said. A lot of it. My stomach dropped. From what? Bad investments. Gambling. He never told your dad. I thought of the rushed emails. The pressure. The timing. He was desperate, I said. Yes, she said. And desperate people do stupid things. She reached into her bag and pulled out a flash drive. My heart skipped. Is that? No, she said. Not the one from the safe. I deflated. But, she added, this is something else. She slid it toward me. What's on it? I asked. Screenshots. Emails. Recordings. I stared at her. Recordings. Daniel liked to talk, she said. Especially when he thought no one would question him. My fingers brushed the drive. Why are you giving this to me? She met my eyes. Because your dad didn't deserve this. And neither did you. I swallowed hard. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, she said. If this goes public, he'll come after both of us. I know, I said. But I'm done letting him decide what happens. Renee nearly dropped her coffee when I showed her the flash drive. This changes everything, she said. She plugged it in. The first audio clip played. Daniel's voice filled the room. He doesn't need to understand all the details, he said. He trusts me. Always has. My stomach twisted. Another clip. It's just initials, Daniel said, laughing. No one checks that stuff. Renee paused the recording. This is huge, she said. This isn't just civil. This is criminal. I nodded. He forged them. Yes, she said. And possibly coerced your father. She leaned forward. But there's a problem. I braced myself. What? If he removed evidence from the safe, we need to know what it was. I think it was a USB drive, I said. Lauren said she saw one. Renee nodded. If that drive exists, and if it contains proof of intent or prior versions of the will, it's the nail in the coffin. But we don't have it, I said. No, she said. But maybe we know where it went. She looked at me. Did your father ever trust anyone else? I thought of one person immediately. My Aunt Carol. Dad's younger sister. Accountant. The only person Dad ever argued with about money. She helped him with taxes, I said. And legal stuff sometimes. Renee smiled. Then that's our next stop. Aunt Carol lived an hour away, in a quiet neighborhood with trimmed hedges and no nonsense. She opened the door and crossed her arms when she saw me. I was wondering when you'd come, she said. I followed her into the living room. You know, I said. I suspected, she said. Daniel called me a month ago. Asked questions he had no reason to ask. My pulse quickened. About what? About your father's safe, she said. And whether I'd ever helped him back anything up. My breath caught. Did you? She studied my face. Then she stood and walked to a bookshelf. She pulled out a thick binder. Inside was a small envelope. She handed it to me. I made a copy, she said. Years ago. Your father asked me to. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a USB drive. And a note in Dad's handwriting. If Daniel ever pushes too hard, this explains why. I looked up at her, tears burning my eyes. He knew, I whispered. Carol nodded. He just didn't expect to get sick so fast. I closed my fingers around the drive. Outside, a car door slammed. Carol's eyes flicked to the window. Did you tell anyone you were coming? She asked. No, I said. A shadow passed across the front window. Carol's voice dropped. Then your brother found you anyway. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Daniel's name lit up the screen. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid to answer. I answered the phone before it stopped ringing. Where are you? Daniel asked. No hello. No pretending. I looked at Aunt Carol. She stood perfectly still, eyes sharp. I'm visiting family, I said. He exhaled through his nose. You need to leave. That's funny, I said. I was about to say the same to you. Silence. Then a low laugh. You think you're clever now. I think you're desperate, I said. And sloppy. I hung up before he could respond. Carol locked the front door and pulled the blinds. He's never been good under pressure. My hands shook as I slipped the USB drive into my pocket. He knows we have something. He's known for a while, she said. That's why he's panicking. We waited 10 minutes. Then 20. No knock. No doorbell. When I finally left, Carol walked me to my car. Whatever's on that drive, she said, don't sit on it. I won't. She squeezed my arm. Your dad trusted you. I drove straight to Renee's office. We didn't play the recordings out loud at first. Renee made copies. Labeled everything. Logged timestamps. Then she finally leaned back in her chair and said, okay, let's hear it. The first file was a video. My father sat at his desk. Older. Thinner. But clear-eyed. I'm recording this in case I don't get the chance to fix what I started, he said. My throat closed. I love both my kids, Dad continued. But Daniel's been pushing me about the will. About the business. He says he knows better. That he needs control. Dad sighed. I don't like being rushed. The video cut. The next file was audio. Daniel's voice again. Frustrated. Sharp. You don't need to read the whole thing. Just initial it. A pause. Dad's voice quieter. Why does it look different? Daniel, legal stuff. Boring. Dad, I want to talk to her first. Daniel, you're overthinking this. Renee stopped the recording. This is coercion, she said. Plain and simple. I nodded, numb. There's more, she said. And it gets worse. The final file was a scanned document. A loan agreement. Signed by Daniel. Collateral listed as future inheritance secured upon execution of revised will. I stared at it. He leveraged Dad's death, I said. Yes, Renee said. Before it even happened. She closed the folder. We're filing criminal charges. My stomach flipped. How long will it take? Not long, she said. Once the DA hears this, they'll move fast. And the business? She met my eyes. If this holds, everything reverts to the original will. 50-50. Justice didn't feel like victory yet. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting to see if the ground would hold. Daniel didn't wait for the court to contact him. He showed up at my apartment that night. I heard the knock and froze. Then it came again. Louder. Open the door, he called. We need to talk. I didn't. Please, he said. His voice cracked just enough to sound real. I stood on the other side of the door, phone in hand. You should leave, I said through the wood. My lawyer will be in touch. I know you have it, he snapped. Whatever Carol gave you. I didn't answer. You don't understand what you're doing, he said. You think this ends well for you? It ends with the truth, I said. That's enough for me. He laughed. But it sounded hollow. You always did think you were better than me. I finally opened the door. Just a crack. I never thought that, I said. You did. His face twisted. This was supposed to be mine, he said. He was supposed to choose me. He did choose you, I said. Just not over me. Something shifted in his eyes then. Not anger. Fear. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. So did you, I said. He stepped back. Enjoy what you've got, he said. While it lasts. Then he turned and walked away. The DA called 2 days later. They wanted formal statements. Originals. Testimony. Daniel was arrested the following morning. I watched the news clip alone in my living room. No mugshot yet. Just footage of him being led into the courthouse, head down, jacket pulled tight. I didn't feel relief. I felt tired. The civil case moved quickly once the criminal charges were filed. Daniel's lawyer asked for delays, extensions, psychological evaluations. The judge denied most of it. I took the stand on a Tuesday. The courtroom smelled like old paper and disinfectant. Daniel sat across from me, avoiding my eyes. When I spoke, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just told the truth. About the nights balancing the books. The promises Dad made. The emails. The forgery. When I finished, the courtroom was quiet. Then Daniel's lawyer stood. "Isn't it true," he said, "that you stood to gain financially from this accusation?" "Yes," I said. "Just like my brother did." He paused. No further questions. Lauren testified next. So did Mike. So did Aunt Carol. By the time Renee played the recordings, Daniel was staring at the table. The judge listened, took notes, then adjourned for the day. The decision would come the following week. That night, I couldn't stop shaking. What if something went wrong? What if technicalities mattered more than truth? Renee called around 10. "We're in a good position," she said. "But be ready for anything." After we hung up, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. "We can still fix this." I stared at it. Then another. "Split it quietly. Drop the charges." I typed back. "No." 3 dots appeared. Then nothing. The ruling came on a Friday afternoon. I sat in the courtroom, hands folded so tightly my knuckles hurt. The judge cleared his throat. "In light of the evidence presented," he said, "this court finds the amended will invalid." My breath caught. "The original will stands." I closed my eyes. "The estate will be divided equally." Renee squeezed my hand. But the judge wasn't done. Additionally, he continued, "This court refers all evidence of forgery and coercion to the district attorney for further action." Daniel looked up then. For the first time. Our eyes met. And in his expression, I didn't see anger. I saw regret. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. I walked past them without stopping. That night, I went to Dad's house alone. I sat in his office, in his chair, and let the silence settle. I whispered, I tried. A week later, Daniel took a plea deal. Reduced sentence. Restitution. Probation. The business transferred back into shared ownership. But when the paperwork was finalized, I made a decision. I bought him out. He signed without looking at me. As he stood to leave, he paused. "I really thought I was right," he said. "I know," I said. He nodded once, then walked away. And, just like that, the story everyone thought was over wasn't. Because rebuilding what someone tried to steal from you turns out to be harder than exposing their lie. And I was about to learn that the long way. The first Monday after everything became officially mine, I unlocked the construction office before sunrise. The building felt different without Daniel's name on the paperwork. Quieter. Like it was waiting to see who I'd be. I walked through each room slowly. The conference table where Dad used to spread blueprints. The supply closet that always smelled like sawdust and coffee. His old office, still mostly untouched. I didn't sit at his desk right away. Instead, I opened the window. The air smelled like wet asphalt and early fall. I let it in, like the place needed to breathe again. By 8, the crew started arriving. Some looked nervous. Some looked relieved. A few hugged me without saying anything. Mike was the last one in. He stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. "Heard it's official." "It is," I said. He nodded. "You want me back?" I smiled. "I never wanted you gone." His shoulders dropped like he'd been holding them up for weeks. "Good," he said. "Then let's get to work." Rebuilding wasn't dramatic. It was slow. Paperwork. Meetings. Apologies to clients Daniel had scared off. Long days fixing problems I hadn't created. Some nights, I went home too tired to eat. Other nights, I sat on my couch staring at nothing, waiting for the adrenaline to fade. That's when the guilt crept in. Not about Daniel. About Dad. I kept wondering if I should have noticed sooner. If I should have protected him better. If staying strong now somehow meant I'd failed him then. One night, I pulled out the video again. The one he'd recorded himself. I watched it all the way through this time. At the end, he leaned closer to the camera. "If you're watching this," he said softly, "don't punish yourself for trusting people. That's not a weakness." I paused it there. Then I cried harder than I had since the funeral. Daniel didn't contact me after the plea deal. Not a call. Not a text. I heard about him through other people. He moved into a small apartment on the edge of town. Took a job that didn't involve managing anything. Paid restitution on a schedule. I saw him once at the grocery store. We passed each other near the frozen food aisle. He looked thinner. Older. He nodded at me. I nodded back. We didn't speak. And weirdly, that felt right. 6 months later, I held a company barbecue in the yard behind the office. Kids ran around with juice boxes. Someone brought a grill that barely worked. Mike burned the first batch of burgers. It wasn't fancy. It felt real. I stood near the fence, watching my crew laugh, and realized something had shifted. I wasn't defending what was mine anymore. I was building something again. Lauren came by near the end. I hadn't invited her, but I wasn't surprised she showed up. "Looks good," she said, nodding toward the crowd. "It feels good," I said. She smiled. "That's better." We stood in silence for a moment. "I'm moving," she said. "Out of state. Fresh start." "That makes sense." She hesitated. "I'm glad you didn't let him win." "I didn't," I said. "But I also didn't let him destroy everything." She nodded. "Your dad would be proud." After she left, I stayed until the yard was empty and the sun dipped behind the building. Then I locked up and went home. The following spring, I made one last change. I renamed the company. Same work. Same crew. New name. My last name. When the new sign went up, I stood across the street and watched the installers bolted into place. It wasn't revenge. It was ownership. A year after the court ruling, I visited Dad's grave. I brought coffee. Poured a little on the grass the way he used to when he said the first sip was for the ground. "I figured it out," I said. Eventually. The wind rustled the trees. "I kept what mattered," I added. "And I let go of what didn't." I stayed until the cup was empty. People sometimes ask me if I regret exposing my brother. They expect a simple answer. I tell them this. I regret that it was necessary. I don't regret doing it. Because the lie didn't just steal money. It stole truth. It rewrote history. It tried to erase years of work and trust and care. And letting that stand would have cost me more than the inheritance ever could. Looking back now, there are a few things I learned the hard way. First, being quiet doesn't mean being weak. You can show up every day, do the work, and still need to speak up when something's wrong. Second, trust should never require you to ignore your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Third, justice isn't about punishment. It's about restoring what was taken and refusing to carry someone else's lie. Fourth, family doesn't get a free pass to hurt you. Love and accountability aren't opposites. And finally, you don't honor the people you lose by staying small. You honor them by standing firm, telling the truth, and building something honest from what remains. I didn't win because my brother lost. I won because I refused to disappear. And that turned out to be enough. A few months after the new sign went up, something unexpected happened. A letter showed up in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name, written carefully, like whoever wrote it had erased and rewritten it a few times before committing. I knew who it was from before I opened it. Inside was a single page. No apology. No excuses. Just facts. Daniel wrote that therapy was court-ordered at first, but he kept going after the requirement ended. He wrote that he finally admitted, out loud, that what he'd done wasn't about money. It was about needing to feel chosen. Needing proof he mattered more. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He didn't ask to meet. He just wrote, "I understand now why you fought. I won't interfere with your life again." I read the letter twice, then folded it and put it in my desk drawer. Not because I wanted to save it. Because I didn't want to throw it away angry. Time did what courtrooms and lawyers couldn't. It softened the sharpest edges. Not all of them, but enough. I stopped replaying every conversation from the past, searching for warning signs. I stopped wondering if there was a version of events where Daniel and I ended up on the same side. Some questions don't have useful answers. Work filled the space instead. The business grew steadily. Not fast. Not flashy. But solid. We hired 2 apprentices from the local trade school. I started offering benefits Dad always wanted to but never quite managed. On Fridays, I closed early. Dad would have liked that. Sometimes clients asked how I ended up running the company. I learned how to tell the story without bitterness, without turning it into a confession. Just the truth. Clean. Simple. My dad built it. I kept it going. That felt honest. One evening, nearly 2 years after the trial, I was locking up when I noticed someone standing across the street. It was Daniel. Not pacing. Not watching the building. Just standing there, hands in his jacket pockets. I froze. Then he raised one hand. A small wave. I crossed the street. We stood a few feet apart, neither of us sure who should speak first. "It looks good," he said, nodding at the building. "Thanks." Silence stretched. "I won't come inside," he said. "I just wanted to see it." I believed him. "I got your letter," I said. He nodded. I wasn't sure if I should have sent it. "I'm glad you did," I said. "And I meant it." He swallowed. "I don't expect anything from you." "I know." Another pause. "I'm leaving town next month," he said. "Permanent." "Okay. I hope you're doing well," he added. "I am." He smiled faintly, then turned and walked away. I watched until he disappeared around the corner. I didn't feel victorious. I felt finished. That night, I went home and slept deeply for the first time in years. No dreams. No replaying voices. No clenched jaw. Just rest. If there's one thing this whole mess taught me, something deeper than inheritance laws or betrayal, it's this. Closure doesn't arrive with apologies. It arrives when you stop needing them. When you stop measuring your life against someone else's choices. When you build something so solid that the past can knock on the door and you can choose whether to answer. I didn't get the family I thought I had, but I kept the one I built. And that, more than any courtroom victory or signed document, is what finally made me whole.